Hey guys, me Danny, and today I'm going to be doing my Queen Charlotte review. So this is a review of Queen Charlotte, and I'm going to be explaining each characters. Then I'll be explaining my thoughts of the end season, from the season, and then my final thoughts, and then my predictions. So, spoiler: if you haven't seen Queen Charlotte, please don't go forward because you don't want no spoilers. But if you have, continue. So I'm going to be explaining about Queen Charlotte, and I really like this season. So let's get on with the video. So Queen Charlotte, she's a Queen Consort of the United Kingdom, Great Britain, and Ireland, the wife of King George III. She's known for a commanding divine feature. She's leading the most powerful future of the time. Queen Charlotte is from a small town called Murray in northern Germany. After her parents died, she was raised by her brother Duke Adolphus against Charlotte's wishes. Adolphus signed a betrothal contract to marry Charlotte after King George III. They travelled together to London for the wedding. Charlotte tried to get out of it, but he said he already signed a contract, so she had to marry him as unable to say no to the King of England. When he arrived, the King's mother, Princess Augusta, examined Charlotte and told her job was to make as many babies as possible for the King George. In the meantime, she sent Charlotte to have a dress fitted, ignoring Charlotte saying that she bought her own dress. So, you can see that she doesn't want to be part of this. But, it's part of contract and you can't get out of contract. As Charlotte walked around, Bremsey followed her. She tried to get Walker first so she could ask him questions, but he said he had to walk 5 paces behind her at all times. He wasn't able to tell her anything helpful about the king as the dress was fitted. Brimsey still refused to answer questions. She asked if Brimsey would truly always be with her. He said he would, but cleared the room when she had needed the space in the chamber spot. Once he was gone, she escaped the room and left the building. So there's a bit where she was like, I can't take it anymore. She went to the garden wall and attempted to climb it. A man came to her and asked if she needed help. She asked him for help going over the wall because she believed the king might be a beast or troll, since no one would tell anything about him. She said she didn't care what he looked like, but she did not like not knowing. She then asked for his help, but he refused to help her go over the wall to avoid worrying him. She realised he was King George and attempted to cut. She only wanted to know about him and told her about his likes and his dislikes. He also declared that she was beautiful. He admitted he was as nervous as she was, but he couldn't go over the wall or would be a scandal. Adolphe was fallen down, and George told him Charlotte was deciding if she wanted to marry him, a choice he left up to go her. He kissed her hand and told him he hoped to see her inside. Charlotte told her brother she needed to change, so she decided to marry him. Charlotte attended the wedding in the gown she wore with her and her hair and afro, which I loved this dress, amazing. They were married after together in the reception. Adolphe was told to take care and said she would pray for her soon blessed with babies. Then he left. She also met Lady Danbury, a member of the court, who promised to come any time the Queen sent for her, of course. King George then told her he had a present for her. He took her to Buckingham House, then he had redesigned for her. She would live there while he returned the queue. Okay. She was upset that they wouldn't be living in the same house. They wouldn't even have a proper wedding night. They argued about this, and he ended up leaving her while when he went to Kew as planned. After he was gone, Charlotte chaffed at Primsy following her, but he said he had sworn to take care of her and hoped she would get used to him. That night, as Charlotte lay in bed, she remarked that she have gone off the wall. So, it's kind of sad, like, doing this. Like, she's waiting for him the whole night when she's not going to have the proper, like, to make love or anything like that. And for him to tell her, like, oh, yeah, that's not going to happen. It kind of pissed me off because I really liked King George. But people understand a bit more why. But it was a bit annoying this episode. But yeah, Charlotte spent the next few days doing very little. As she was meant to be on her honeymoon, she couldn't go out or have a lady in waiting room to have her without raising suspicion. One evening, while eating dinner, she told Brimsey to ready the carriage she could send to see her husband. So she's like, I had enough. I'm not staying for the whole few. I'm back. Let's go back to Kew. When she arrived at Kew, Reynolds directed her to Rob's authority, and she and Brimsey stayed behind while she went there alone. So in this bit, this is a bit more later. I'll explain it a bit more. So yeah, I'll explain now. They both had sex, so we know that Brimsey and him have sex. She was surprised to find George looking at the sky through a telescope. She said she thought she'd been visiting brothels and found it worse that he seemed to prefer the company of stars to her. He assured her that wasn't the case, and she shared with him how monotonous her days were, how she felt trapped in an unfamiliar environment and wanted to spend time with her husband. She wanted him to fight for her, but he told her to go home. Soon after that, Charlotte was in Orangery when she became frustrated not being allowed to pick her own oranges. While she was there, Brimsey told her the king had sent a gift and a note. Charlotte was upset to find that the gift was a Pomeranian. She refused to accept that it was a dog and linked it to a fawn bunny. So this bit is funny because it showed how she's like, a girl, I want flowers, not a dog. But it is funny. Charlotte asked Brimsey if she could meet her lady in waiting. He reminded her she was still technically on her honeymoon and said he couldn't tell her what to do, but advised on how to do best what she wasn't allowed to. They settled on how to meet one day lady in waiting, Lady Agatha Danbury, who Brimsey said could be discreet. Okay. During this meeting, Charlotte confessed to Lady Danbury that she and King hadn't really consummated their marriage. So Lady Danbury is a bit shocked, confused, like, girl, like, that's the whole part of the great experiment, is for you to have babies and sex in it. But there's a bit that makes me laugh, like, you see. She threw diagrams to show the Queen exactly what she and the King had to do, because bless her heart, she did not know what it was. She told King Charlotte that she never enjoyed it, but saw it more as a chore than simply meant to be enjoyed. She was also impressed on Charlotte that she needed to secure a position in society. The next day, George came to see Charlotte and asked to share a meal with her. She was offended at his offer and walked out. He followed her and apologised for leaving her after the wedding and asked to give him time to explain himself. He took her to explore his authority while he showed her that he had been looking at Venus. He explained how he'd been studying astronomy and he enjoyed it. Then he said he wanted to start over and try again, start with him coming home to Buckingham House. Back at Buckingham House, George and Charlotte were both prepared by their staffs, and then they came together and finally consummated the marriage. God's sake. The next morning, Charlotte said she went away for George to have breakfast. Bertie told her the King had a guest, so she went to check on that. I overheard George talking to his mother about his marriage and consummating. It was just part of the duty which he'd done. Charlotte went back to the table and said there was no need for the wait for the King. So, you know, there's a lot of arguments. On Coronation Day, Queen Charlotte and King George played a happy couple when in public, then private when they separate ways. So, you know, things were not going well. Lady Danbury told Queen Charlotte she survived her marriage by focusing on producing on her an heir. She and the King agreed to attempt to produce an heir every even day, decided that once it was done, they would never have to see each other again. They continued this pattern all while growing more passionate and insistent with each other. Once she was out of the honeymoon period, Brimsey told Queen Charlotte she had a full social schedule. She asked about hosting social events, and Brimsey told her that King didn't allow events. He also didn't allow events outside the palace. Bruce said he didn't know why, but thought it might be related to the doctor he's seen with the King on Coronation Day. When King Charlotte asked him about that, he pretended to have misspoken, but admitted what he knew when she pressed him. Queen Charlotte asked King George about the doctor, but he brushed off as a routine, and she was forced to accept his word. Okay, come on. Queen Charlotte stopped watching King George when it was about his day. On the evening of the odd day, she waited for him in the bedchamber and asked him why he refused to go out or hold court. He was like on any king she ever known. He largely spent days farming because he liked them. You see, he has a very good passion of farms, so... Lady Di became Queen Charlotte told that she was hosting a ball the first of the season. She knew the King wouldn't attend as he didn't attend social events, but she asked Charlotte to encourage the other ladies waiting to attend. Queen Charlotte didn't understand the issue, but Lady Di explained to her that her life would be much different if they were not the Queen as she established members of town were unhappy with. The new members refused to accept them as peers. She implored Queen Charlotte to focus on her country and her people on their fate right in her hand. Let's see. Sorry about that, guys. Queen Charlotte went to King George. She told him that she understood how exhausting and lonely it would be for him to live with the happiness and misery of a great nation. He'd always been an exhibit instead of a person. She told him he could be a person with her. She also told him he didn't want even days or days anymore, and then asked him to do a favour by saying no to the members of the town about Lady Danbury's ball. The King and Queen attended the ball and then dancing with a catalyst to get the two sides to mix. As they danced, Queen Charlotte thanked King George and he said he didn't have to thank him for anything as they were a team. That night at home, King George told Queen Charlotte that one party they'd done more for Britain than they had done in the last century. That night, Queen Charlotte woke up to a mysterious sound. She got up there to find George nude and writing threatening on the wall. She followed him outside the garden where she called out to Venus. He ignored Reynolds' attempts to get him covered, but Charlotte stepped and covered himself by telling she was Venus. Once they got back inside, Queen Charlotte and Reynolds started cleaning the King up. Then she asked Reynolds and Brimsey what was wrong with her husband, because she's like, well, I'm confused. Charlotte went from to see Princess Augusta. She told her she noticed that when she arrived, all the knives were replaced with dull ones, and the windows were sealed and shut, and King Lear was removed from the library. She thought she was the damaged one, but came to realize it was the King. Prince Augusta said that he was mad that he was exhausted from carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. She said Charlotte would understand why she produced an heir, and she said she'll do anything to stop the crackling. Which I find that stupid. Like, girl, that's not the reason, because you don't just say, you just, like, you can't say, because he's trying to carry the weight. No, that's stupid. Why would they carry the weight short about escaping with the knives? Moving on, Queen Charlotte was upset when Prince Augusta arrived and brought Dr. Hunter, the royal physician, with her. He established that Queen Charlotte was pregnant. So what he says, the kid. Prince Augusta decided to move in, not wanting to leave Queen Charlotte alone even for a second. Sorry guys, it's because it's like allergies, man. Queen Charlotte wrote a series of letters to King George, but each went unanswered. Okay. She decided to write a letter to her brother, asking him to come, take her back home. Duke came to visit, but she couldn't leave with him as he would be treated into kidnapping, and she was pregnant with her heir to the throne. Despite Queen Charlotte fled to Lady Danbury's and asked to stay there, she said she'd been lied to and betrayed by everyone except Lady Danbury. Lady Danbury said if they were to be friends, they need to start a relationship over and live the lives they want for themselves. They need to make the men in their lives think of them. Queen Charlotte went back to Buckingham House and told her brother that he told her off to be the Queen of England, so she was going to be the Queen of England. She went to Reynolds and asked to see the King. When he said she couldn't, backed up by Dr. Monroe, she promised to have her men search the whole place. Reynolds directed that King George was being tortured and betrayed. Oh my God. She ordered him released and then tortured George, trying to get him to come back to himself. When he finally acknowledged her presence, she went to Monroe and told him to leave and never return. She said she didn't care about the King's sanity, she only cared for his happiness. She then had Reynolds get the King warm bath, food, clothes, and told Ramsay they were moving the queue. Yay! The next morning, Queen Charlotte went to King George and told him he looked better. He told her she would leave, but she told her she should leave. He was a madman. She said that she'll stay and point out in order trying to get to leave. He'll never. He said he didn't love her. She showed him that she loved him. But if he truly didn't love her, she'll go back to Buckingham House and they live separate lives. He told her he loved her from the moment he saw her trying to climb garden wall and they kissed. When King George went out to work at his farm one morning, Reynolds said that the King appeared healthy and might not last. Despite this, Queen Charlotte said he was well. Prince Augusta came to see the Queen, but Queen Charlotte went to her and told her he wasn't receiving visitors. Prince Augusta told her that she was carrying the future king in her womb, while Prince Augusta carried others and heirs, and there was no room for weakness from the moment a king is born. Queen Charlotte needed to be helped secure King George's power but held and face Parliament. Queen and George told him he needed to address the Parliament, so he needs to do that. As she got close to the due date, Queen Charlotte had tea with Lady Danbury and the physician and told her, so the royal physician told her she was giving birth with quick painers. Lady Danbury said it's the worst pain imaginable, but when Queen Charlotte asked her she was serious, she backtracked and said it only hurt a little and she barely remembered it once it was over. Queen Charlotte also looked after Lady Danbury, then always asked after Lady Danbury's children and her welfare following her husband's death. Lady Danbury assured her that it was all having tea with friends was just what she needed. When King Charlotte went to labour, the royal physician examined her and said that the baby was coming feet first. King George experienced with that in animals and helped the doctor position for her. So he repositioned for her to help. After the baby was born, he took the new position off while Queen Charlotte rested. The King went to address Parliament, but he was able to get out of his carriage when the time came, so he returned home. Queen Charlotte found him under his bed. She called under the next time. He said he wasn't going to get better until he couldn't get blamed as she left. She thought she wasn't even a solution. Sorry guys, there's so much information. She suggested bringing Parliament to him instead of the other way around and proposing hosting an event. They decided to throw a ball to introduce a new prince, and the ball there became George V. Princess Augusta went to Queen Charlotte and said she ever wanted was for King George to be happy, and the Queen Charlotte made them happy. Aww. When she learned that Lady Danbury had refused a proposal from Duke, Queen Charlotte confronted her, although she was more upset that Lady Danbury hadn't come to her with concern of the title and estate. Lady Danbury said she didn't want to add the Queen Charlotte burdens, but Queen Charlotte said she and the King shared a load together, as they had all subjects, new and told. She asked Lady Danbury to come to Rectory for concerns in the future and addressed as Lady Danbury, solidifying her title. As the ball was down, King George tried to offer Queen Charlotte a drink, but she declined, told him she thought she was something again. New Year's Day celebrated. So, that is Queen Charlotte's character. I know it is a lot of information, but you see how she did suffer a lot though, because like she really liked George as much, and when she found out that that she had to keep on just doing these kind of things, she was very upset. And it's upsetting because when you go to imagine you're going to like get married and the guy tells you like, oh well, you're staying there, I'm staying there. It's kind of heartbreaking because you really like the guy. You went to do a contract, you did all these kind of things, these sacrifices for him to say, I'm back to Q. But now we're going to go to King George. I'm going to learn a bit more about him because King George is a lot to take in. Like when I watched this episode, it was very emotional, very good. But you see how she even loved him, even though with the illness that he had, she still loved him. But yeah. Now we go to King George. King George was talking to Farmer Crosby about the advantage of using horses in the place of oxen when he's a valet. Reynolds came to get him and said his mother needed him at a palace. He believed the Dowager Princess had found King George a bride. King George met Princess, telling her he was disinterested in the bride she found. She told him that he needed to marry to straighten the family's position, and the betrothal contract was already signed. George started to mud himself, so Princess Augusta cleared the room and held him. She gathered a group of doctors to try to treat him, while other doctors said he was a quack. Princess Augusta tried to have John treated because the other people say it was failed. This bloody John Monroe, is annoying. He's a dickhead. I'm sorry. He's a dickhead. I'm sorry. The thing that he does to George is just stupidness. Like, he did. Anyways, on the day of the wedding, he overheard that she disappeared and went out to the garden. When he found her, attempted to scale well to get away. Not realizing he was a groom, she told him she didn't like knowing. So just a bit. We can move on to that bit. No. George told him Charlotte, with deciding whether or not to marry him, left the choice up to her. She said he had to get back because the guards probably thought he'd been kidnapped, but he hoped to see her in there. So, Charlotte decided to go forward with marriage. They danced together at a reception. Then George told Charlie a present for her. To the Buckingham Palace, which he had resigned for. She lived there, and then they argued. What happened? Queen Charlotte became bored of spending her days alone and decided to move to QT George. She found him in his observatory looking for a telescope. She was confused. Why was he visiting? He seemed to her, he told her that it wasn't true, but she said she wanted to spend her honeymoon with him alone in a strange country with strange foods. After seeing how lovely Detroit was, Reynolds encouraged King George to send her some of King's jester. You know? See, Reynolds had good thinking. Yeah, Reynolds had him break into Monroe's lab where they stole one of his dogs and sent to Queen Charlotte. Reynolds reported back to it, saying it was a phone bunny. Later, George went to see Charlotte. He also joined her for a meal, which upset her. He told her she had no reason to trust him, but he hoped to give him one chance to explain himself. He took her to the observatory where he showed her Venus. Then he apologized for it, and they'll come back to Buckingham Palace. So the next morning, she came. We saw that fight, right? They end up arguing when she probably bettered his wife. He laid out all demands she had made of him and done all she asked. After she left, he went to join Charlotte, only he would come. Reynolds called for a doctor and promised that Charlotte would not know anything. So, nothing. King George began work with Dr. Monroe. The treatment included Monroe directing all King George's life, including dunking him in ice water, feeding him peasant food, and hitting him. For what reason is that good? Finally, King George said that they wouldn't be working together anymore. So, King George saw Dr. Monroe during coronation. King George and Queen Charlotte played the Happy for the Cuppick. Then, despite the conflict between them, they met up at Canterbury an even day. During one of his coopings, Queen Charlotte asked him why he's seeing Doctor on Coronation Day. He played it off, saying he was forced to accept. I mean, a typical examination where she was forced to accept. Queen Charlotte came to King bedroom one day where he questioned. She said he was like any other guy. He just spent days farming because he liked it. Another day, Queen Charlotte told me and said what he was like living with happiness, misery, and nation. He told her he was a regular man in a garden. She told him he could be personal with her. They start kissing. She told him she didn't want even days or days anymore. Okay, let me say that bit. King George went to Monroe, said they couldn't be working together anymore. Monroe said he'd be working with the Queen as if she was a child. Though King George wanted to stay away from her. In the middle of the night, King George woke up, scribbled on the wall. Then he went outside nude, called out to Venus. He ignored Reynolds' attempts to get him to cover up or come back inside, but Queen Charlotte was able to go through him by saying she was Venus. Once they back inside, Queen Charlotte and Reynolds cleaned them up. After his wife and mother talked about condition, King George went back to Monroe to continue treatment. George cried out in pain after doing treatments, but Monroe refused to stop them, even when Reynolds intervened. This finally ended when Queen Charlotte came and ordered Monroe to out of the room. She told George that Venus was there, but then told her she was Charlotte, and it was just George. She put his hand on her belly and told him that Charlotte was kicking and needed to come back to him. He finally nudged her in the bath clothes and then moved to Q. And then King George wrote a speech and practiced it. While he was working on it, Queen Charlotte went to labour. Once Doctor arrived, King George tried to go in the room for him, but the Archbishop and the Lord Bute stopped him. Finally, later became out, said she was something for him and entered over the objections. He held her hand, told her how strong she was. When the doctor said the baby's feet first, he said the experience with animals and knew what he was doing. King George returned to his speech preparation. He got nervous, though Queen Charlotte assured him he was fine. On the way to the parliament, he started shaking and ended up caught up on the floor of his carriage, unable to speak. He returned home where he lived under the bed. Queen Charlotte called him next to him. He said he would understand if she wanted to leave because he wasn't going to get better. She told him she loved him, she would stay. He didn't want to know how to fix what happened in Parliament, so she started to bring Parliament to him instead of the other way around. Sorry about guys. They decided to host a ball to lose a newborn son. After the ball, they presented the baby to cry and asked to be King George V. They danced and offered her drinks, and she declined and told him she was pregnant again. I'm pregnant. During a moment when he was calm and appeared lucid, George asked for his wife to come to him. She did it after their children. She told them that children were not so little anymore and informed them that daughter Amelia had died. So, this is a bit later on, okay? He became agitated as he seen her, then accused of doing something to his daughter and be surveyed by some servants. The king continually declined, resulting in frequent tantrums, making son Prince George take a position as head of state of the British Empire. Okay, so talk too much. Anyways, like I said, with King George, it was so sad. Like, he had this illness for a while and he had to keep it from Queen Charlotte. Like, this is so sad. Like, imagine you're keeping all of this information, like all this information, you can't tell your own wife. That's so sad. And the thing what I have to say about King George is that he suffered so much. Like, not even imagine, he suffered a lot. Imagine like you're in this place where you have to be like, you have to not know illness. It's just like, it's so horrible. And people say that he had I feel like he had like, I don't think he had bipolar, but it's not bipolar, it's another word to say. You know, he had these kind of illness he couldn't control. And he basically had like this personality. I think it's personality disorder. There's people that have different personality, so that's what I thought he had. Because like, no one, this is a real life story, guys. Like, this is a real life story. And it's so sad, like, he had to keep that. But even though he had his illness, she said, oh, but I still want his happiness. So she looked after him and she still likes him for all these years. You know what I mean? And you can see that's a good person. And the thing is so sad, like, he still had this condition for all of this years until he was old. Until he was old. And poor Queen Charlotte was like, oh Lord. But yeah, that is King George. Now we're going to Lady Danbury. Lady Danbury is an old friend to the British family and also royal family. At the age of 3, she betrothed to be with her late husband. Lady Danbury, she's widowed after a relationship. She was kind of formed a relationship to Lord Ledger. During my interest, she then called by Prince above her Queen Charlotte and turned down. She needs to be learned at her in person. Okay, let me blah 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 blah. I took too much and I go blah blah blah. So, Lady Danbury, in this series, in the first episode, you see her having sex with a guy. So when I saw her having sex with a guy, I was confused about that. I was like, let me shut the door. That's just too much noise. Well, that didn't do anything. Anyway, sorry. So I was just saying that Lady Danbury, you know, when I was an old guy, I was like, why is she having sex with an old guy? And then I found out that it was basically the husband. So apparently they said that when she was 3 years old, she was married. She was betrothed to be with her husband, which is, it's like incest. It's like ew. Like, it's to be explained that, you know, she in her life, when she has sex with a guy, she don't want to show the emotion because like, she was being forced to marry this guy. She was like, okay, as a royal family, she had to be with this guy, but she didn't want to be with this guy because like, he was nothing interested in her. Like, they would have sex when he was complaining about things. That's when they had sex. So when they had sex, it was just weird. But Lady Danbury, she does suffer a lot in her ways. Like, she wanted to be free and she can't because she has him as being with her. You know what I mean? But it is sad, and it's just like, it frustrates people because you're like, I'm a good guy. Why are you with this guy? Why are you with this guy? But she did suffer a lot. And I think after he died, she came herself, innit? She said that she would be herself. She was free. Lord Ledger, she does have a relationship with Lord Ledger, but she does tell him that she doesn't want to be with him. I really wanted her and Lord Ledger to be together because Lord Ledger is actually Violet's dad. And when I found out, I was like, what? But I really, like I said, I really liked their relationship together. They had a lot of good in common. They would go with each other. He would make hats for her birthday, which is very cute. She was she was just courted in the end, but she turned it down because she wanted to be out in person, which I understand. And of course, Queen Charlotte was upset, which I just explained to you. But that was what happened. There's nothing we can do about it. But Lady Diana was a good character, and I really liked the character she did. She did come visit Queen Charlotte when there's in six positions. She went to her about, you have to marry the guy. Like, she did all these kind of things, told her, like, this was going to have to happen. But yeah, that's it. Reynolds. Okay. So, Reynolds is the butler to King George. He's a very interesting character. I really like this character. So, he has a secret affair with Brimsey. Brimsey is the one with Queen Charlotte's maid. When I like these two together, like, their connection together is so cute. But we can tell that in those times, you had to hide you have to hide it. You couldn't be shown about it. So that was just like a very interesting to do, isn't it guys? So he's a servant of King George III. He really likes Brimsey and they have a good connection with each other, as explained. When it came down to the secrets that says George has kept it quiet. They didn't say anything. There was a fight between Brimsey, as he knows King George was keeping a secret, because when it came down with the letters, he's like, oh, you said tell your king to man up. Thank you, Brimsey, thank you. There's a but Reynolds, he was just being a bit annoying a bit sometimes when he was like, oh well, you have to leave it, and I'm like, no, you have to talk about it. In the end, they do get together and they dance together in the end. I don't know what happened with this guy Reynolds, because in the end, it's just like, I don't know what happened with him. I'm guessing he died at an old age. I'm guessing, because I didn't know Brimsey had a secret affair with this guy. So when you see in the end, it's just a bit weird. So I was like, okay, what's going on? I need to know what happened to Reynolds. Hello. But I like the character. Okay, let's go on with Augusta. So she is Princess Augusta. She is the mother of King George III. So she is King George's mom, and she needs to make sure that the Queen is suitable for her son. She kept about King George III's illness and tried to do therapy to help, but we all know in their illness that he's not doing okay, of course, hello. She's trying to make sure her son could do well in the Parliament and not anyone show his illness. She wanted Queen Charlotte to look for Charlotte. She wanted Queen Charlotte to produce a lot of babies. They expanded the list of people who look like Charlotte. This is a bit that I was like, okay. So there's a bit where she's like, oh, because she's like, oh, we didn't know she was like that colour. I was like, really? So I felt like that was kind of like, maybe it was racist in an old time. I think it wasn't like, maybe in that time, I don't know. But it was like, okay, really, why is it because it looked like her? Anyways, she then asked Queen Charlotte to look for Charlotte and that Lady Diana invited them for a party. Queen Charlotte did question the knife and she told her that it was tired from carrying away with the country soldiers, but of course that's a lie. She told her once you have produced your heir, you will understand the position she was in. She told her she needed to not see King George until she produced an heir. So in this bit where she was like saying, oh, but you wouldn't understand what my position. I'm like, girl, really? There was a moment between her and Lady Danby. So this is a bit where I was like, okay. She cried, told her to stop crying, that she has a secure future and find a way to cure her fate. So basically she's saying to stop crying, like you don't cry, you don't show your weaknesses, like that's not what you do. Which is weird. I'm like, I actually told woman to stop crying. I was like, girl, what do you expect her to do? She can't do anything. But this bit was just a bit weird. She was like, oh, that she gave it a drink to everyone to go away. And she's like, you can't cry, like you have to man up, basically. Because she told me, I think in this, her husband used to abuse her and stuff like that. So she chose to just like man up. Which, no, like, come on. You have emotion, you have to come out. So with Lady Danbury, they did have a moment because she wanted to know more about Queen Charlotte, what's going on. And of course, Lady Danbury and herself, she was like, oh, I don't want to like keep this from Queen Charlotte because we're starting to bond. So she was talking to her friend and she was like, oh, well, girl. But in the end, I think she did stop. And I'm thinking maybe, we don't know if she does know about all of this. I don't know. But yeah, Queen Princess Augusta, she's very fishy. Like she didn't want the dress she wanted. She kept the illness, just didn't tell anyone. She seemed like a nice person because in the end, she did say, oh, I'm happy that you made him happy and I'm happy they were happy. Like she confessed that she said that she didn't like Lady Danbury, But she said she appreciates her courtesy, that she likes what she does, which is like, okay, all right. Anyways, moving on, we're gonna go on to Lord Herman, which is Lady Demi's wife. He has a son. They have something, I think, 4 children, stuff like that. He was very surprised he was invited to the wedding, and also his wife. He's also very shocked he gave his time, Lord Danbury. She told him that it was time to unite as a society. As a new territory, he wasn't able to invite the whites and hunting trips. So he wasn't inviting these kind of things, the whites and the hunting trips. You know, I think they see him as a person that he's not really important. You know, he was surprised he was called Lord Herman, Lord Danbury. You know, he took his frustration by having sex. There you go. He got more upset that Lady was talking to Augusta, as his family was connected to the family. His family was connected to the family. Like, why am I not related to this? He explained to me why he was invited. There was ladies' tea. He was the one who chose to do the ball. So he told her, like, okay, do the ball. And she's like, I didn't want to do it. But then she just like, okay, let me just do it. He didn't want the ball. She didn't want the ball. But she assured him it was very good as a ton. So later on, you know, there's not really good connection with them. But like, I like the character a lot, but he's a bit weirdo. I don't know. But like she liked him his own way. Let's just say. The death was a bit weird. It's funny or weird. I shouldn't laugh, but it's just funny because it was just so random. So basically, they're having sex and he stopped breathing and then he just died. This bit was a bit weird because I was like, that's why I was laughing. I was laughing because he died because of sex. I'm like, was he crying because he was tired or something? I'm like, what's going on? But I think he was very old as well. So when she found out, she did feel a bit happier with the maid because she had a maid there that was so funny. I like the maid. But in the end, like when it came down to his funeral, she did cry. She was like, oh, I shouldn't feel sad. But she explained to the maid how she was like trapped when she was 3 years old. She had to be with this guy and she had to do everything and bathe him, these kind of things, like do what he has to do. So it was like weird. But yeah, now we go on to Lord Ledger. Sorry guys, it's a long one. Lord Ledger, he was a father of 5 children. He was a good person who felt that he listened to his wife, that she set the real queen. But she doesn't like the whole rest of them had socialised a ton. She didn't like that Lady Danbury was doing the ball, but it came eventually. She was kind of an annoying character, which I didn't like. Anyways, he invited Lord Danbury to join his hunt. There was a dance, but they did was very cute. He discovered the properties of boy to each other. They shared their feelings. He made her birthday hat, which is cute. And then they finally had sex. I was like, ooh. But this was a very connection person. Like, wow. He did bring value with him. She said thank you and said goodbye. In the ending, she didn't come to be with him, which is sad because I really like Lord Ledger. But you know that's what's gonna happen. But you know he went his own ways with my mum, and she went her ways. So now we go to Adolphus, which is Charlotte's brother. He's a Duke of Mecklenburg and brother Queen Charlotte. He made a deal to marry his sister. They traveled to London for a wedding. He said it was honour to marry the king, but she wasn't an honour, he was. He announced her to Princess Augusta, thought that she did well. They had a funny moment in the garden. He went for the aisle, he returned home, he got a letter from her saying that she wanted to go home. He said it can't because she had a child, and the kidnapping became upset with Brimsey. So, in this bit, in the end, there was a betrothal where they had to be betrothed together, but she was like, I couldn't do that because she wanted to be her own self, so she didn't come with the brother. Brimsey is a new character. He's a king right-hand man. Brimsey was trying to work with her by taking to the seamstress to have the dress fitted. They got to ask questions, but he told her to walk 5 paces. She asked about the king, but can only say little facts. He said to her he'd always be there for her. He said he needed. When Charlotte came to London, married King George. Okay. Okay. I want a bit more, so guys. Hold on 1 second. I'm gonna be with you guys 1 second. The King letters. While the King remained accused, getting treatment for Dr. Monroe, King Charles wrote several letters which were being took to Reynolds. The Queen's about the Brimsey was only to her that he was delivering them. She wrote another letter this time to her brother, which Brimsey opened and read. He learned that she wanted her brother to come back to Germany, so he told Reynolds he needed to get the King to come back to her. Reynolds said he couldn't, but couldn't tell Brimsey why. Brimsey told the Queen that she couldn't leave England but she told him she had to stay at palace so she wouldn't be blamed for the disappearance. She fled to Lady Danbury's, but was quickly brought back home. But King Charlotte learned that King George was essential tortured by Dr. Monroe. She ordered Monroe out and told Brimsey they would move the queue. Brimsey and Reynolds talking about the King's health. Reynolds hopefully say well and he and the Queen would live a lifetime together, which gave Reynolds and Brimsey a lifetime together in turn. The King, Queen, Three aboard to introduce a signed the prince. At the ball, Brimsey and Reynolds slept away and danced proudly far away from the crowd. So, Brimsey was a very good character. Like, he really liked the Queen. He did everything we did. And in the end, they did dance together. There was a bit where you see later a bit more later on where King Charlotte's doing the ball and he's older. And you just see Brimsey walking, dancing by himself. I was like, what? So you're basically telling me that they're not got together. This bit was so sad. It was just so sad because he was just dancing together by himself. I was like, no. But yeah, that's what, and for Violet. So Violet is a character. So I'll explain a little bit more about her. So Violet, so she had with the Queen. So she basically there was a bit with Lady Danbury like later on. It was really funny, and she said that her blooming that she had sexual desires, so she had to keep it. So Lady Danbury's like, oh, it's okay to do these feelings, and she said that she had this feeling as well. Later on, we do find out that it's actually the dad who had an affair with Lady Danbury, and when she's also the hat, she kept the hats that he kept for her. And when the fight there, I think they do know what happened between them two, but they didn't really say anything. So I really like that bit. But we just get to see Charlie a bit more. But yeah, that's about it, guys. That's all of the reviews for this movie, for this show. I would like to say I really enjoyed this season a lot. It was so good. I really like the passion between Queen Charlotte and King George. Oh, I love that bit where she said, oh, do you love me? So you love me. That bit was so cute, and he, is one of my favorite episodes. I feel like she did a very good job. Queen Charlotte, King George did a good job. I really like Lady Danbury's life, and it was so good. Like, even it was not a lot of sex in it, but it was still a good connection. But hopefully that they should do a new season of that and be saying about Reynolds, because I didn't get nothing about Reynolds. What's going on with Reynolds? But I want to say this: his illness was so annoying. It wasn't annoying; it was the people annoying, because he had this illness for a while, and they tortured him, and they birthed him. They gave him peasant food, then iced by water. It was horrible. Like, why would you do it? It was, I see it as conversion therapy. Conversion therapy kind of, I know it's different, but it's kind of like that, because they would be like, oh, the cure that you have is going to be a cure, and it's like, no, it's not. That's a condition of a whole life. So, but I really enjoyed the season. It was very good. I loved it. Characters were good. Well done, guys. But yeah, that's basically it, guys. My prediction is maybe if they do one bit of Reynolds, I'll be very happy. Indeed. Very, very happy. Indeed. Anyways, I'm going to go now, guys, because it's been a long day and I wrote so much for people. I hope your eye sense what I have to say. I don't know. I tried the most I can. This is the most longest video I have done, as I'm 38 minutes in. But I hope you guys love this video. Hold on, let me see if I wrote anything. Okay. Hopefully I said what I have to say. Hold on. Yeah, that's what I have to say now. Okay, guys. I'm going to go now, guys. Okay? I'll see you next video. Bye, guys. Make sure to comment down below. Bye.